Hello everyone, my name is Anitsu, and I'm back with another episode of Spoiler Sundays. So this is the time of the week where I take a look at all of the spoilers that we got, and, well, talk about them. So we're still on EX03 spoilers, and we're getting closer and closer to the Japanese release, and we have about 18 new cards to talk about. So let's just dive right in. So first up, we have Aegisdramon. So Aegisdramon is a blue level 5 Digimon. Stats aren't anything too special, and it looks like this card is going to be supporting the whole source splitting sub-theme. So I do really enjoy that source splitting sub-theme because, it hasn't really gotten a whole lot of support, and any free or recurring value you could get off of your Digimon is usually really, really good. Because most of the time when you're doing these one-stack decks and the opponent tears them down, then that kind of feels really bad, seeing all of that investment go to waste, and this is a type of gameplay that actually lets you utilize your sources in a new and meaningful way. So what this card is doing is it has a when attacking ability where you get to play one blue level 3 Digimon from one of your blue Digimon's digivolution sources for free. It's kind of acting similar to King V-mon all the way back in BT7 and Metal Garurumon all the way back in BT1. Then it has a nice inheritable ability where when attacking once per turn, you may play one blue level 3 Digimon from one of your blue Digimon's digivolution sources for free, giving basically his when attacking ability to whatever Digimon is going to be on top of him. And to continue along with that sub-theme, we got a new version of Paledramon. So Paledramon is going to be a level 6 blue Digimon that actually does have an inheritable ability. So stats aren't anything too special about it, but has a nice when digivolving ability, where we get to play one blue level 3 Digimon and one level 4 or lower Digimon with aquatic in its traits, from one of our blue Digimon's digivolution sources without paying its play cost, and then we get to place one blue Digimon from our hand underneath this Digimon to the bottom of its digivolution source. So it's just trying to split out its inheritables and refill its inheritables, making it just a really good card to just recycle our cards and use them in new and interesting ways. Similar to how we saw, again, King V-mon and V-mon play in BT7. So it looks like that archetype is getting a little bit more of direct support, and on top of that, it has an inheritable ability for us to take advantage as a good card to shove underneath himself, utilizing his ability, where during all turns, once per turn, when a Digimon is played from a digivolution source, we get to return one of the opponent's Digimon whose level is equal to then the Digimon we played back to the bottom of the owner's deck. So it's just acting as some solid control for when we do our whole source splitting shenanigans to try to remove the opponent's Digimon. Next, we got a new version of V-mon. So this time, V-mon is making his appearance in red, which is really different because all of the other V-mons that we got before were blue, and he can digivolve off of red and purple eggs for 0. DP-wise, he only has 1000 DP because he's actually a pretty decent rookie. So he has a nice on-play ability where we get to trash one card with Imperialdramon in its name or a free in its traits from our hand to be able to draw 2. So it's just acting as some good card draw, which you could use this in like an Armor Rush based deck as a good card to want to hard play and then digivolve it into any of your other Armor Digimon. Then on top of that, he has a nice inheritable ability for whatever we're going to be using him with, where during your turn, while you have a purple Digimon in play, then this Digimon gains plus 2000 DP, and I'm guessing there's going to be a little bit of purple support for him as well. Next, we got a new version of Paledramon. So this new version of Paledramon is a level 4 red Digimon. He could digivolve for 3 off of a purple or red level 2 with 5000 DP. So nothing too special there outside of the fact that, again, it's trying to play more into red and purple. And what this card is doing is he has a when digivolving ability that is modular. So you get to pick and choose which one you want to activate, and the two abilities that you get to choose between is one of your other Digimon may digivolve into a purple level 4 Digimon with free in its traits from your trash by paying for its digivolution cost. So it just allows you to use your other Digimon to digivolve into another Digimon, which is pretty cool because we really haven't seen much of that at all. We've rarely seen digivolving from the trash as well. We saw that all the way back in BT9 as one of the undead archetypes. And then on top of that, the other ability that you could choose to use is you may DNA digivolve this Digimon and one of your other Digimon that's in play into a Digimon from your hand by paying its DNA digivolution cost. So it's either A, letting you set up your DNA digivolution, or B, actually doing the DNA digivolution when you digivolve up into him, which is pretty cool and allows you to utilize the card in various different ways, on top of him having a nice inheritable ability that supports, again, more DNA digivolution, where at the end of your turn, you may DNA digivolve this Digimon and one of your other Digimon in play into a Digimon card from your hand by paying its DNA digivolution cost. So the way the card wants to work is basically set up a DNA digivolution into your level 5s, and then utilize your level 5 to then DNA digivolve again into a level 6. And it looks like the level 5 DNA it wants us to take advantage of is going to be a new version of Paledramon. So this new version of Paledramon is a red and purple Digimon, and it can digivolve for 4 off of either red or purple level 4s with 8000 DP. So pretty strong for a level 5, nothing we haven't really seen before, just playing around with different colors. Then he has the DNA Digivolution ability, where he could DNA for 0 on top of a red level 4 and a purple level 4, which is par for the course for DNA Digivolutions. Then he has a when digivolving ability, where when you DNA digivolve this card, you get to play one Dino V-mon from your trash for free, which is the whole idea on trying to set up a second DNA Digivolution, which is why we saw that Flamedramon kind of have the abilities that he has, so that way we could just DNA again right away. Then on top of that, he has a nice on-delete ability, where we get to play one V-mon from our trash for free, so even if we're unable to DNA Digivolve this card right away, and he does end up getting deleted, then we still get some value out of the card by him replacing himself. Then his inheritable ability states that during your turn, while this Digimon has Imperialdramon in its name, then it gains security attack +1 to allow us to have our Imperialdramon punch a little bit harder than it normally would, which is a very stereotypical red thing. So it's just playing very nicely into what both of those colors are trying to do in terms of red and purple, which is what two-color Digimon kind of support. Next up, we got a new version of Imperialdramon Dragon Mode. So this new version of Imperialdramon Dragon Mode is going to be the end of this line, at least the parts that we currently have revealed, because we currently don't know what Dino V-mon is, and we don't know what the purple side of what this whole evolution line is trying to play around with. But as a level 6 Digimon, it is a purple and red Digimon, can digivolve for 4 off of purple or red Digimon for 4, which is pretty average considering it has 12,000 DP. Then it has DNA Digivolution ability, which Imperialdramons haven't had before, so it's nice to see it have one here, especially considering how the line wants to work, where we get to digivolve it for 0 off of a purple level 5 and a red level 5. So it looks like Paledramon wants to try to set up this DNA Digivolution, which isn't a surprise because Paledramon is usually the better one of the two between him and Dino V-mon. Then he has a nice when digivolving ability, where when we DNA digivolved into this card, your opponent chooses one of their Digimon, destroys all of your opponent's Digimon other than the chosen Digimon, and then it gains the Blitz ability, so that way we could swing with it right away. Then it has a nice when attacking ability, where once per turn, this Digimon gets plus 2000 DP for the turn. Then this Digimon may digivolve into one of your Imperialdramon fighter modes from our hand by paying for its digivolution cost. So it's just trying to play around with fighter mode as well, trying to increase our stack and go up the stages to do various other things. And I don't necessarily know if we're going to get a new fighter mode in this set or if they're going to save that for somewhere else, but it's nice to think about the different types of uses that we could gain out of this evolution line. Next up, we have a new version of Teropiomon. So this new version of Teropiomon, like the Hydramon we saw previously, wants to play nicely inside of that Bloom Lordmon deck. So what this card is doing is it has a when digivolving ability, where if this Digimon is suspended, then you get to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon, which is just your very stereotypical green thing to do, especially for that deck since a lot of your Digimon want to be suspended anyway. Then it has a nice inheritable, where during your turn, once per turn, when one of your Digimon becomes suspended by a card effect, you get to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon down, acting as some good recursive way to be able to suspend the opponent's Digimon down, because a lot of what green likes to do is try to suspend the opponent's Digimon to be able to beat it up or use the fact that it's suspended for various different benefits. Next up, we have a new version of Entomon. So this new version of Entomon is a level 5 green Digimon that costs 4 to Evo, which is pretty expensive for a level 5, but it does have 8000 DP and it does have the Digisorption 3 ability. So ideally, you're only going to be digivolving this for 1, which is really, really tempo efficient for level 5 Digimon, especially since we don't have a whole lot of Digimon that are level 5 that evo for 1, usually for a very good reason, because evoing for 1 just allows you to easily climb your stages faster than what the opponent might be anticipating, especially inside of that Bloom Lordmon deck, because this card also is a vegetation to fit on theme with what it's trying to do. So it's just a good card to easily climb our stages with, and it has a nice when digivolving ability for us to take advantage of on the way up to our level 6s, where when we digivolve into this card, if you have 2 or more suspended Digimon in play, then we get to unsuspend this Digimon, so it's not actually a big downside utilizing its Digisorption ability as long as we have literally 1 other Digimon in play when we digivolve into this. Next up, we have Crabmon. So Crabmon is going to be a rookie that seems to be wanting to play with that whole source splitting sub-theme. So he has a nice on-play ability as a blue level 3 Digimon, where one of your blue Digimon gains jamming for the turn, which is pretty good considering some of those Digimon's DP in terms of the level 6s with the whole source splitting sub-theme are actually pretty weak. So this is a good way to shore up that weakness. And then on top of that, it has a secondary ability where if this card was played from an evolution source, then we get to place 1 blue level 5 or lower Digimon from our hand at the bottom of that Digimon's Digivolution source. So it's just trying to be a good target to split apart and be able to replace itself in the inheritable sources, so that way we could try to toolbox our inheritable abilities because we probably want to separate it again. So already the gears are turning where we could use this in combination with V-mon to shove a V-mon underneath the inheritable sources to then have a way to split V-mon apart to do various more things with. So I think this is going to be a good card to fit inside of that type of a deck. Next, we have Aegisdramon. So Aegisdramon is a card that's looking, again, to play around with that source-splitting sub-theme. So it's a blue level 4 Digimon with the on-play ability where one of your blue Digimon gains the blocker ability until the end of the opponent's turn, which is pretty good because most of the time you're probably going to shove this ability on your biggest Digimon, making it just a harder Digimon to remove, because we notice that the low-level blockers are kind of useless at this point, and the high-level blockers are really, really good to shut out a lot of aggression. So it's a good defensive tool on top of the fact that we could couple this with the second part of its ability, where if this card was played from the Digivolution source, then we get to unsuspend that Digimon that we just gave blocker to, so it can actually block. So it seems like the whole idea is we're going to attack, split this card out, give it blocker, and unsuspend that Digimon, and even at worst, if we're just able to unsuspend that Digimon, we don't necessarily care about the blocker ability, we could be aggressive with that Digimon to try to get its when attacking ability off again, if we could, acting very similar to the BT1 Garurumon. Just a little bit better and a little bit more on theme for all of the new tech and tools that we're playing with for the source splitting sub-theme. And then to round out that whole sub-theme, we have a level 7 Digimon for us to be playing around with in the form of Aegisdramon. So Aegisdramon is a blue level 7 Digimon. Stats aren't anything that special. It evos for 4 on top of a blue level 6 and has 14,000 DP. So it's not the strongest level 7 in the world, but it's not the weakest either. Then on top of that, it has a nice wind digivolving ability for us to utilize, where we get to place 1 blue level 3 Digimon card or a Digimon with Seedramon in its name, or with aquatic or sea animal in its traits from our Digivolution source of one of our blue Digimon for free. So when we go up into them, basically we just get a whole bunch of different targets that we could split from our inheritable sources. Then on top of that, it has a nice ability where during the opponent's turn, once per turn, when the opponent plays a Digimon, we get to activate this Digimon's Wind Digivolving ability to try to be able to line up certain abilities that we want to trigger during the opponent's turn. So we could use this to try to toolbox our abilities to try to be disruptive as well as offensive. Next, we have a new version of Paledramon, and this is going to be playing around with the Angels and 4 Great Dragons themes. So it has an on-play ability where we get to reveal the top 4 cards of our deck, add 1 yellow card with Angel in one of its traits, and 1 card with 4 Great Dragons in its traits from among them into our hand, and the rest go to the bottom. So it's just your stereotypical digger for Angels and 4 Great Dragons. Next, we have a new version of Airdramon. So this time, Airdramon is in yellow, and it's basically acting like TK from BT1, except on a Digimon body. Its on-play ability states that we get a look at our security stack for a card, reveal it, and then add it to our hand, and if that card was yellow, then we get to recover one, to try to up the deck's overall consistency, making sure that we could utilize our security as an extra resource for us to search through. Next, we have a new version of Paledramon. So this new version of Paledramon is still a level 4 blue Digimon and has a when digivolving ability where we get to discard any one evolution source from one of the opponent's Digimon. So this allows us to selectively choose whatever inheritable ability we want to get rid of and, well, get rid of it, which is pretty powerful. Ideally, you want to just get rid of the whole stack, but if you're only getting rid of something, it's better than just getting rid of something generically off the top or bottom and having that choice on what we want to get rid of. Then it has a nice inheritable ability where during the opponent's turn, when your opponent's Digimon without evolution sources would evolve, we get to basically tax them by increasing the cost of that evolution by 1. So that's just trying to make the opponent's plays a little bit less efficient for us doing literally what we want to do and try to strip the opponent of their inheritable abilities. And to go with the Paledramon, we have a new version of Crisp Paledramon. So this new version of Crisp Paledramon has a nice when digivolving ability where we get to discard any 2 evolution sources off of one of the opponent's Digimon. So again, trying to attack selectively on any of the abilities if we know we can't get rid of the whole stack. Then one of the opponent's Digimon without inheritable sources can't attack or block until the end of the opponent's next turn, so it's basically just trying to stunlock the opponent's Digimon for not having any inheritable sources at all, which is something very similar to what we saw with what Blue Hybrids is trying to do all the way back in BT7. Next, we have a new version of Quadramon to kind of round out what the whole Examon line is trying to do and set up. So this is a level 4 green Digimon that could digivolve off of a blue and a green level 3 for 3, which is relatively expensive, but you could choose to evolve him for 2 on top of a card that contains Dracomon in its name. And then on top of that, this Digimon is just your level 4 blocker, so it's pretty okay, it's not insane, but we're trying to use this mostly for its inheritable ability in the whole Examon evolution line, where during both players' turns, while this Digimon has a Dramon or Examon in its name, then this Digimon gains the blocker ability, and we definitely want to have our higher level Digimon have the blocker ability, so that way we could have blocker be as effective as it possibly can be. But this is just further confirmation that Examon is probably going to end up being a blue-green Digimon. Next up, we have a new version of Grounddramon. So this new version of Grounddramon is a level 5 green Digimon, can digivolve for 4 off of a level 4 blue or green Digimon, and has 7,000 DP. So nothing too special there, but it does have the alternative evolution cost where we could digivolve this for 3, which is a little bit more tempo efficient on top of any of our Quadramons. So we just saw a Quadramon, and we do have some various other Quadramons, and this Digimon also has the blocker ability as a level 7, so the higher the stage, the stronger the blocker ability becomes to just try to wall out the opponent. Then on top of that, it has some really decent abilities, where during your turn, Examon in your hand may treat this Digimon as a level 6 for its DNA digivolution. So Examon is going to be a DNA digivolution according to this ability, and the fact that we could use this card as a level 6 material makes it really nice on being able to easily play Examon, considering it seems like Examon is going to be a level 7 Digimon as well. Then it has a nice ability at the end of the turn. We may DNA Digivolve this Digimon and one of our other Digimons with Dramon in its name in play into a Digimon card from our hand by paying its DNA Digivolution. So it's just trying to set up our DNA Digivolution for our Examon. Then its inheritable ability for when we actually are using this underneath a Digimon is during all turns when this Digimon has Dramon or Examon in its name, this Digimon gains blocker ability, which again, making sure that our higher level Digimon has a blocker is really important because of how strong high level blockers can be at walling the opponent out. And we could try to use that Grounddramon to be able to extend that blocker ability to not only just our Examon, but any other Digimon with Dramon in its name, like Breakerdramon here. So Breakerdramon is a level 6 green Digimon this time, and he evos for 4 on top of a level 4 blue or green Digimon, which is pretty good considering that's kind of the colors that Examon seems to want to be playing with. But he could be a little bit cheaper, where we could Digivolve him for 3 on top of a Grounddramon or on top of a Wingdramon. So that's pretty cool, and I don't know if this is soft confirmation that a Wingdramon is going to make it into the sets, but I kind of hope he does. Then on top of that, his actual abilities state that during all turns, once per turn, when this Digimon becomes suspended, for hopefully blocking, we get to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon, so that's pretty decent, especially since this also kind of combos with the whole Bloom Lord deck, except I don't think it's going to go into that deck at all, considering they're just playing with a whole bunch of different tools. But that first all turns ability just makes him a better attacker, and it makes him a better blocker. Then, on top of that, his secondary ability is during all turns once per turn, when one of your Digimon with Dramon or Examon in its name deletes an opponent's Digimon by battle and survives. Then we get to trash the top card of the opponent's security stack, acting very similar to what we saw with Ancient Beetlemon all the way back in BT7, except this time it's playing with our Dramons and our Examon, which is pretty good because burning the opponent's security doesn't activate any security abilities, making it a little bit more valuable to try to want to beat up the opponent's Digimon. And then its inheritable ability is basically the same thing as its secondary ability, where during all turns once per turn, when one of your Digimon with Dramon or Examon in its name deletes an opponent's Digimon by battle and survives, then we get to trash the top card of the opponent's security stack, further enforcing the fact that we want to beat up the opponent's Digimon to try to burn them, to get rid of their security as safely as we possibly can. But that's it for this week's spoilers. I think we got a whole bunch of new and exciting cards, and there's still some really powerful cards that we have yet to be revealed, like Examon, and I'm excited to see what the rest of the set has as we're nearing its closure. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.